Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another video on analyzing stimulus spending within a Keynesian cross model. So let's get oriented to this model here for a second. What you can see here is that this economy, according to Keynes, is in equilibrium, and let's say these are billions. So they're in equilibrium at $3 billion worth of GDP. They're in equilibrium there because, according to Keynes, if your aggregate demand is exactly equal to the value of your real GDP, the value of all the goods and services that you're producing, then you're in equilibrium. And you'll stay there unless some external force acts on the economy to increase or decrease aggregate demand. To Keynes, it was all about aggregate demand. That's what really created our equilibrium. And just to give you the quick version of the theory, we've got really two lines here. One is just a reference line, a 45-degree line, an x equals y line. And the reason why that's handy is that you can very quickly, without having to look at the numbers on each axis, you can very quickly kind of see that, well, here, aggregate demand is greater than the value of real GDP. So, for example, if real GDP was right here at 1, well, aggregate demand is greater than 1. It's above 1. We know that because this is an x equals y curve, so this is where 1 equals 1, and aggregate demand is above that. So the idea here is if aggregate demand is greater than the value of the goods and services you're producing, then there's going to be upward pressure on production. So if people are still walking into the bakery asking for more cinnamon rolls at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and the bakery's all sold out, well, then that's a signal to the baker to bake more cinnamon rolls because they're giving up potential business. So there would be that upward pressure and the baker would bake more cinnamon buns until the baker was essentially, the baker, the butcher, and the brewer were all making exactly $3 billion worth of goods and services, and people were buying $3 billion worth of goods and services. Then we would be in equilibrium. Now, we could try to make more goods and services if we want. Let's say, let's pick this spot. We're going to analyze this spot in a moment. Let's say we were at $6 billion worth of production. Well, the problem with that is, remember, this is our x equals y line. So you can see that our aggregate demand curve would be below 6 billion. So while we might be producing $6 billion worth of goods and services, people just aren't willing or able to buy $6 billion worth of goods and services. And so cinnamon buns would be sitting on the shelf at the end of the day, and that would be a signal to the baker to make fewer cinnamon buns. So if we're anywhere over here on this side of equilibrium, we're going to have downward pressure on production. And if we're anywhere here on this side of equilibrium, we would have upward pressure. And that's that. So in the Keynesian view, there's no natural tendency to move towards full employment level of real GDP. All right, so nonetheless, that doesn't mean that you can't have unemployed people and you couldn't have a recession in Keynesian economics. It just means that the prescription for fixing it is going to be different than what we would see in classical economics. So the prescription here would not be to just wait for the long run. As Keynes said, in the long run, we're all dead, and we don't want to wait around for that. So let's do something. What can we do? Well, we're going to start off by analyzing this model to see if we can figure out the marginal propensity to consume. Can you see it? Can you see it here? It's right in front of us. It's essentially what's setting the slope of this curve right here. If you recall, the slope of the aggregate demand curve is the marginal propensity to consume. The rise over the run of that curve is showing us how much of new income we will spend. If we earn more money, how much of it will we spend? So to get a rise over run here, you just need any two spots on this curve. All right, so fair enough. I can see one spot here. Gosh, can I find another one where I know for sure what the number is, what the value of that point is? Well, there is another one right here. Yeah, right there. That, it might not stand out to you at first, but that is a point. So we've got 2 points. So here is our rise, and here is our run. Look at that. So we've got a rise of 2 units over a run of 3 units. That could be $2 billion over $3 billion. Or in other words, when we earn $3 billion in this economy, the economy will tend to spend $2 more billion. So if you want to translate that to the formula to calculate the marginal propensity to consume, we've got our change in spending over our change in income. And as I often point out, that is a response to an event. In the event that we earn $3 billion more, we will respond to that by spending $2 billion more. That's why this is change in spending over change in income. The change is that we earned $3 billion more, and so we responded to that by spending $2 billion more. So with that, our marginal propensity to consume is 66.666 repeating percent. Now, if you recall, the reason why that's so important, this marginal propensity to consume, is because with that we can figure out the marginal propensity to save, and with that we can figure out our multiplier. It's a very handy-dandy formula, the sum of a geometric progression, that can give us our multiplier. And so the formula for that sum of a geometric progression is 1 divided by the marginal propensity to save. If our marginal propensity to consume is 66.66%, then our marginal propensity to save must be 33.333%. So 1 divided by 33.33% is 3. So our multiplier is 3. That means for every dollar we spend, we're going to increase real GDP by $3. All right, so let's just say that we've got a situation here where we are in a recession. We're stuck in Keynesian equilibrium here over at $3 billion, and that is a $3 billion recessionary gap. We're $3 billion below our full employment level of GDP, and we'd like to fix that. All right, so we're not going to wait around for the economy to fix itself. That would take too long, and it might never happen. So, according to Keynes, the government should get involved and spend some money. But how much money? How much money do they need to spend? Well, the neat thing is they don't need to spend $3 billion to heal that gap. We know that for every dollar we spend, it will get multiplied out to some amount of money that's larger than the initial spending, the autonomous expenditure. So, if you recall, our multiplier is 3. We've got a $3 billion gap here. So how much money do we really need to spend to fill it? Well, this, I picked pretty easy numbers to work with here. You can see that $3 billion divided by our multiplier is 1. And that is a way of figuring out how much money we really need to spend to fill this gap. So if we spend $1 billion, that $1 billion will be multiplied by 3. And you can see where this new higher aggregate demand curve intersects our 45-degree line, showing us what our new Keynesian equilibrium will be. And hey, it's right on our full employment level of GDP. So that's how we would fill that gap. Remember, for every dollar we spend, we're going to increase our GDP by 3. And so we've We've healed the gap using the multiplier, using Keynesian economics, and that is the name of that tune. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.